the one that really stops people in their track is when they understand how much adhesion our product has.
Okay.
I mean, we have all this waterproofing and stuff like that where we were lining, we've lined frac tanks, we've lined, million-gallon water tanks, which some of the other products can't do. But
Wow.
the easy demo is if you do an adhesion test and you're pulling 2 to 3 times the numbers of the other products, then you think, how is that beneficial, right?
Right.
When could that have solved the problem that that I assume was not solvable? Or what can I use as a repertoire, right? Which is a more of a premium solution that gives a longer life. So I think that's for us. That's like, we call it like the jaw-dropping moment where like,
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of What Are You Working On? I'm your host, Ian DeGraff, and in this show, I talk to people in the building products contracting world about what they're working on. Today, I had a conversation with Tats Nakagawa, who's the CEO of Castagra Roofing Product, which is based in Vancouver, Canada. They produce a very cool line of specialty roof coating patch and repair products for flat roofing. The chapters for our discussion are below if you'd like to skip to a specific part of the conversation. And also, if you are in the building products world or the contracting world, I would love to connect with you and possibly have you on the show. Feel free to leave a comment below and I will get in touch with you. Thanks for being here and please enjoy my conversation with Tats Nakagawa. Have a good one. So welcome everyone to another episode of What Are You Working On? And I have the extreme pleasure today of talking with Tats Nakagawa, who is the CEO of Castagra Roofing Products, and I believe I pronounced all of it correctly. And
you got my name, but the Castagra, like
Castagra. Okay, got it. Perfect. And Tats and I met on LinkedIn, where a lot of great meetings take place, and he was kind enough to ask me to just jump in Zoom and chat for a minute about our shared experiences in the roofing world. So I'm just going to simply give the floor to Tats and just start by asking you if there's anything specific you'd like to talk about, and if not, just tell us a little bit about your background, work background, and your experience in the roofing and building products world. Thanks for being here.
Sure, absolutely. For me, I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, so that's kind of a thread that's always kind of had, throughout my career. I mean, I've had some small jobs or general manager of a tennis facility and stuff like that, but entrepreneurship has always been interesting, and I know it's really cool right now, but I think when I first looked at it, I think 20 plus years ago, it wasn't cool,
right?
When you tell people you're doing entrepreneurship, there's like, okay, so you can't get a job, or or you're in transition, right?
Right.
Now it's like everything is called entrepreneurship, the side hustle, the this, the that.
Right.
But I mean, it was just something that really appealed to me about it.
Right. And so you wanted to be an entrepreneur, and how did it start?
Sure. I mean, my earliest memory of it was, I was 10 years old. I had a friend of mine that had a pear tree in his backyard. Okay. And I thought, hey, you know what? Why don't we take these pears and sell them? So we set up a table near a convenience store without fruit. It was right next to a bus stop. And, we had these pears look horrible, by the way. And we had the pears on a table. We were sitting there trying to sell them. And we're having a horrible time, no luck. And before we were going to shut it down, a guy and his girlfriend came up to the table, and the guy said to us, I love entrepreneurs. And he opened his wallet, pulled out a crisp $20 bill, and gave it to us. And to me, at that time, that was like $1 million, right? And what I remember of that is that, hey, look, maybe the product was crappy and the execution wasn't great, but when you try to do something, right? When you try to take an idea, run with it, good things can happen, right? And I've always remembered that. I've always loved the creativity of it. And although I had a few other interests before I got into university, that always stuck with me. But I knew I needed help. Because at the time, right now, there's just so much information out there on YouTube and podcasts, how they construct how they started their business. And although there was a lot of books at the time that talked about that, for me, just coming from a sport background, I wanted a mentor, I wanted a coach, and I wanted to work with someone that did things that I wanted to do, or in and around things I wanted to do.
Yes.
And I was really very fortunate because I had a friend of mine that was connected to an individual named Peter Rosen, who's invented a bunch of stuff. Like he invented the Windows media player. He sold it to Bill Gates. So he invented the ability to watch video on a computer, right?
Yeah.
And he worked on some early 3D printing technology, and he worked on a steel measurement technology that later partially inspired the MRI. And I was like, I am gonna help and learn, and I'm gonna work with him for free. I need to learn, right? So that's what I did, and I learned a ton, right, about commercialization. Some of the things that you need to do with it, and what came out of that was, just started an agency that helped launch products and do feasibility, just out of just sheer coincidence and interest. They started to attract those type of people into my network. And I just started to pick up projects where people say, hey, I have this technology or product. Can you help? Right. And in the beginning, I was just horrible, absolutely horrible at it. But when you start to do a bunch of them, you start to understand, hey, is this have a chance? Or what tests can we do to say that it has a better probability of success? And I slowly started to understand the components of what goes into an idea, how you spread it, how you test it, how you expand it. And that was fun. That was really, really fun. Because, after doing a bunch of those, and I was involved in over 100 of these, started to be able to get better at identifying the winners and how to test them cost effectively and stuff like that. But one of the things that started to eat away at me slowly, and this wasn't overnight, was, what am I helping to push into the world, right?
Right.
Just because this plastic thing, it seems kind of cool. Should it be, another thing that should end up on the shelf that ultimately end up in the landfill?
Yeah.
And as you get older, you have kids, you start to think about the next generation, the world, and all that stuff. And it slowly started to feel alignment issue. And what helped was, Peter, my mentor, and at this point business partner, accidentally invented something at that point 20 years earlier. And it came out of the fact that he invented this molding product, because I'm not sure if but roughly 30 years ago, a lot of the high-end homes had a lot of curved walls, right? Especially like the staircases and stuff like that.
Right.
And it was a nightmare for the, to create those baseboards, because you'd have to take these pieces of wood, cut them into Lego-sized pieces, and try to make it look good going around these curved staircases. And it was horrible.
Right.
And he invented something, because he was sort of pushed to do so, that was, flexible, that, you can nail into, you can paint over. And what was important to him was sustainable. Right? This is before sustainability was trendy. He just had this chemistry background. He just, knew where some of this stuff came from, and he just wanted to make it as, less impactful as possible.
Right.
And what happened is, when he was creating this, like many other innovations, like the WD-40 or the microwave, is he accidentally invented a coating product. And he, being the scientist type that he is, he did a bunch of trials. He put it on roofs, he put it on factory floors, he put it on, ship decks, all over the place. And he sold a bit of it, but he lost interest, and he just kind of moved on.
Right.
And so here it is in an application, and all these different is sitting there. And, at that point, 20 years of field history. Because if you know anything about technologies in building materials, some building materials, you just don't know right away if they're going to be successful. Because you can't emulate, even if you do a battery of 200 tests, how it's going to interact with the environment, what it's going to look like, in 5, 10, 15 years. And that's why it takes a long time for these materials to launch. But here we had 20 years of history, and it was doing great. And my job was to convince them that this was exciting, that if we develop new intellectual property and improvements that relaunching it, targeting specific problems and markets was going to be the way to go. And what happened at the time where you could start to get excited about it was there was a show, Dragon's Den, which was earlier to the Shark Tank, which had the same
sure.
Shark Tank hosts, Kevin O'Leary, Robert Herjavec, was holding a national competition to find the best sustainable innovation in Canada. And they were piggybacking on the reality show, and Pepsi was throwing in $100,000 prize for it. And long story short, out of 40 audition sites and 4,000 entrants, Peter did the pitch and he won, right? So that kind of started the launch of all this thing. I mean, that's your dream launch, right?
Absolutely.
And stuff like that. So that's how we kick-started. And I mean, over the years, learned a lot of tough lessons, and I'll continue to learn them as we go along. But it's been fun. I mean, when you're trying to push the industry in the right direction by trying to create sustainable products that are high performance, right? Not sustainable inferior, but sustainable superior in many ways, and trying to make that case over and over, and trying to find in some small way making a difference in the industry is a fun challenge. And that's what we've been doing. We've been going around talking to people and trying to improve ourselves in every which way. So that's the challenge and the headache, but also the fun.
Yeah, that's an absolutely incredible story. So you started to work for him for free, you said.
Yeah.
And that was that a cold contact sort of thing?
Yeah, no, I had a friend that had a relationship, and I was right. This is another story, but I was running while I was going to school. They put me in charge of a tennis facility.
Okay.
It had 14 courts and a gym, but through that network, I had a friend that knew someone like that. So, and because I was talking about, I need to learn more about entrepreneurship.
Oh, sure.
And then when you put it out there, someone connects the dots. The social networks aren't the same back then, but when you start to talk to people, then you say, well, you need to meet this person, and that's how it started.
Okay. Okay. So, and just because I am a total tennis dork, do you play tennis?
I played in the US for a little bit. So I played low level. I played Division 1, but we were getting our butt kicked in California. So
wow, I'm just an amateur weekend tennis player, but I absolutely love the game. So that's really cool.
Yeah, so between my entrepreneurship, the 10-year-olds old and university, I did have this moment where hey, you know what, tennis might be cool.
Yeah.
And I was spending some time working hard at it. And then when you go to the States and you're on the same court as the Bryant brothers, and you look over and you look like you're playing ping pong and they're playing real tennis, you realize that maybe I should do something else.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I've had that feeling playing on a court next to people who are 10x, and you're just like, should I even be out here right now? I mean, for the calorie burn, for sure, but I'm not even playing tennis.
But it's fun though, right?
Oh, gosh,
you're just pushing yourself, seeing what you're capable of, right?
Yeah.
I think if it's so tough, right? Like in business and whatnot, if you play the comparison game, there's just no end.
Well, right. You're absolutely right about that. That's why I just, like my idea for this whole show was pre-pandemic, exactly what this is. And then I got really bummed out during the pandemic, like we all did for a lot of different reasons, kicked it back off again. And I just, obviously I'm not even in a studio. I'm just in my house and it's working fine. And I'm like, this thing's going to get better and better and better and chip away at it. But you got to, at a certain point, you just got to start shipping the product. You got to get something out there to get a little traction, to see what you need to improve. So
yeah, and that's the part, right? There's incremental improvement, and then you kind of change things. And when you try to change things, you don't have a model of what you can expect, because you have your own vision, and every step forward is creates clarity, and I think that's what it takes. And and you just try to do your best. And when you do the face plants, or you accidentally upset someone, then you apologize and you try to make the best of it, and you move forward. And I think it's easy to say, but when you're going through it, you need the reminders, right?
Yes. No, I think you're exactly right. I was just talking to someone this morning about it, at least my experience is a lot of people I know post-pandemic, which is a term we use now, just are so much more receptive to that we are all just every day, every hour, just chipping away at something. And there are, like you're saying, there's going to be a lot of face plants, but I feel that the people I know are even less so responding to face plants or huge mistakes or everything's not perfect. It's just like, okay, we're all just chipping away at something, right? I mean, that's what we're all trying to do. We're all human, right? So okay, so you at what point was there a light bulb moment for this could reinvent the flat roofing industry, the flat roofing product line?
Yeah, I mean, mass adoption we're working on, right? It's just
Right.
an ongoing process. But where's the point where we knew that we had something, that it was in the right direction? I think when we started to get a lot of interest from the roofing industry, I think being from a agency, and we also wrote a book on this that says, don't fall in love with your idea, right? Validate, validate, right? Because we all think our ideas are great,
Right.
and they are, but maybe the customers won't, and stuff like that. I think we had a very talented salesperson, but I think one of the ways that you validate things is you just go to your possible toughest critic, right?
Right.
You try to convince the 40-year veteran that's always done it the same way, or is very respected, right?
Yeah.
Or you go to one of the toughest customers, like for us was NFL stadiums, right? And the example is, I was trying to get this job at an NFL stadium, and there's 40 vendors vying for it, right?
Wow.
Everyone wants to go to an NFL stadium and call it work, right? So and we were shortlisted for the last two, and it was against a very well-known multinational, and we won.
Wow.
And that's when we knew that, hey, side by side, right? We're not going to win the brochure, the ad game, or whatever, but we have a simple way of demonstrating that we're better. And if we can get people to listen and try these things and look at it comparatively, that there's a chance that we can prove, even the toughest customers to come our way and give us a chance. So I think that's when, for me at least, in our group, we think, okay, well, this could be something, right? So because I think it's one thing to be optimistic about your position, it's another thing for people to throw actual dollars in your direction,
right?
That that's the key thing, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to ask my mom to think, if we have a good business idea, right?
Right. No, exactly. So how long ago was that?
I mean, we started this 13 years ago, so I think within the first couple of years, we knew we had something, but it just came down to, this product had so many benefits.
Mm-hmm.
It was like it was a plus, but it was also a curse, because we started out talking about too many of the features.
Okay.
Right. And it was overwhelming to people. And we said yes to too many areas. So one of the skill sets I developed by launching all these products is to get things out of the gate, get the attention, get the first customers, get the first high profile customers. I mean, that's like 100-meter sprinter mentality, right?
Yeah.
And we did that, right? When you get on the show, you get 12 million views, you get $100,000, no strings attached.
Right.
That's sprinting out of the gate. The skill I did not have, the skill that we continue to develop, and is operating discipline. Once people know your game plan, once you win the clients, right? How do you keep them ongoing happy?
Right.
How do you grow a team? That's a completely different skill set, right?
Yeah.
And as a group, we just really had to figure out how to do that better. And I think we've improved that to some level over especially the last 4 or 5 years. But it's just an area that is just a different skill set, and we continue to figure out how to do that better with our situation.
Got it. Got it. So this is probably a good time for you to just, if you don't mind, just give a rundown of the product or the product line, right?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, Ecodur is, plant-based, company's called Castagra because castor oil is one of the ingredients, and, agricultural, it's renewable, drought resistant. That's the basis of the core technology. And we have, the flat roof coating side of things, and then, which is sort of the life extension. And then we have some repair remediation products in and around roofing as well. So those are the two major focus areas. But yeah, I think what I tell people is we're not trying to replace all the products out there. That's not the idea. I think with contractors, and Ian, you're a contractor. Contractors are problem solvers, right?
Yeah.
And you walk into a situation, you're trying to assess what's happening, and then you have a toolkit of all the things that you've learned, right? Because these products do this. You can call this person for that. And in certain situations where for us adhesion matters, or repairability, or whatnot, or other things haven't solved the problem, we get the call, right? Because the thing is, we're part of that toolkit, right? So I think that's the main thing for us that we're always looking for is, we want to get into people's awareness on the strengths and the weaknesses and the applicability of our product, right? So I think if we can solve some of those problems, then let's say the tear off doesn't occur, right? And the landfill doesn't get the the rolled asphalt product, right? It can go for another 15, 20 or more years, right? So
yeah,
I think that's the opportunity, right? Not to say that we're just gonna take over everything. That's not the idea. But if we can just say, hey, look, here's another tool that you can do to solve a problem for our client. We just want you to be aware of it. That's pretty much our mindset on where we want to be with the commercial roofing contractor.
Got it. So with the commercial roofing contractor, what are I call it the second look moments, like the double take, the third look, you're walking down the aisle or at a trade show and you're like, wait a minute, that actually might solve a problem I've encountered many times. It's happened to me many, many times.
Yeah.
For the flat roofing contractor, I mean, I've spent all my time on the steep slope side and been on flat roofs, but what about the product, or in your experience as the flat roofing contractor doing that second look, like, wait a minute here.
We looked at all our 10 to 15 features, and the one that really stops people in their track is when they understand how much adhesion our product has. I mean, we have all this waterproofing and stuff like that where we were lining, we've lined frac tanks, we've lined million-gallon water tanks, which some of the other products can't do. But the easy demo is if you do an adhesion test and you're pulling 2 to 3 times the numbers of the other product, then you think, how is that beneficial, right? When could that have solved the problem that that I assume was not solvable? Or what can I use as a repertoire, right? Which is a more of a premium solution that gives a longer life. So I think that's for us. That's we call it like the jaw-dropping moment where like, I didn't know that was possible.
Okay. So this is where I find in the interviews that I've been recording, what I like and what I think the viewers like is getting into the weeds a little bit on this. So as far as adhesion, are you truly in your own category as far as adhesion? Like you said, 2 to 3 times all of the competing products.
Yeah, I mean, we've done the adhesion test, right? So adhesion, we have the correct waterproofness, we have the repairability, we have the fast cure, we have the drinking water safe. I mean, maybe they, some of them, I don't know about adhesion, could match us in some of our categories, but to have that all in one place, cohesive, we'd love to say that's how the technology was always planned. But it wasn't. It was a coincidence that it came together. So it was kind of dumb luck that it all came together, but it did. So we're really grateful for that, and that's what they can benefit from.
Okay. So for the most part, that light bulb second look is seeing or reading the fact that you have adhesion on a whole nother level, right?
Yeah,
And I'm
that
assuming
starts the creativity, and then they can go on and say what other things that it, and then you know what I mean. People get excited. So
right. And have you personally in your role, been in the room with flat roofing contractors when this is taking place and had those conversations?
I've seen them.
Okay.
I've heard them. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I mean, when you like one of the things, and you've gone to trade shows
Yo,
before,
yeah.
right? And I mean, there's just everyone's telling you that their product's
Right.
awesome, right? So, I mean, but the brochures, I mean, for manufacturers, I mean, in general, including us, I say don't believe it, right?
Right. Right.
Do not believe it. It's marketing material.
Right.
But I think, go with side-by-side testing, right?
Right.
I think that's the way to do it. If there's some quantifiable side-by-side testing that's
Right.
relevant to your situation, go do that.
Right.
Right. And that's what I encourage. Right. So, because the thing is, when you just look at the sound bites, it feels like every product has all the features.
Oh, right.
But
right.
they don't, right?
That's right.
They don't. So do a little bit of homework, but the side by side it's helpful to sort of clear through that. Because honestly, for me, what I love, when I was launching all these products and we're doing feasibility, I know our product is not perfect for every situation, but if we can solve something, awesome, that's great, right? So, and when we're doing product feasibility, I would absolutely hate it when an inferior product would win. Like there's all these examples of business strategy, like maybe it's the Microsoft operating system or whatever, where it just kind of like, they had the exclusive and they had the lock in the market, but the product stinks, right? And it drove me crazy, right? Where marketing would be able to push out something that wasn't the best, right? So it pains me to see that. So whenever I see that, like if I can help in any way, if I'm able to discern what is better, then I just have this empathy or wanting to help, because I know that why are we promoting something that isn't better, right? I mean, there's probably, being in the construction, or if you look at other industries like water and wastewater, there's all these technologies and things that we know that's better, but there's antiquated things that are holding things in place, for whatever reason, right? There's many different reasons, right? So, and for me, I just want to see the progress happen. It doesn't need to be us. I just want to see the progress happen, because in a small way, that just makes things better for everyone.
Yeah, I completely understand. I've had those experiences. And I was talking with someone yesterday about his the antiquated process around producing hot water heaters. And no need to go into the details, but there's a lot of things we've been doing for 100 years with the hot water heaters, which we don't need to, and is actually a detriment to the longevity of the product, which if you've ever owned one, you know that, of course, right? So and that was what was so intriguing about the first time we talked, and how I, went on your webpage and watched some of the videos, and I'm thinking to myself, having a little flat roofing experience, thinking, wow, this product actually, if it does these things that are stated here, and it has all these additional benefits, this is something that appears to be in a class of its own, right? The adhesion, like you just talked about, and then the whole drinking water safe thing, which would be great to hear a little bit about. But maybe just real quick, for those of you listening that have never been on a flat roof or a roof, you go on a commercial flat roof, let's say, and you quickly will observe all of the seams that are there. And just from the standpoint of the seams, you would probably start wondering, if you're at all technical, what happens if one of these seams leaks? And that's kind of the world that we're currently talking about, is what does happen and what is the product lineup that can solve that problem, right?
Yeah. And you're talking about roofs and the sustainability or health. And I think during the pandemic, a lot of the conversations shifted towards health, right? And I think while we were all cooped up, mostly indoors for many of us, you're thinking about air quality, right? Especially
Right.
coming into a commercial building, most of it's coming from the roof, right? Or the water that comes off the roof in the runoff. It's not always the nicest thing that comes off some of these materials that are out there. So
Yeah.
to be able to just shift that a little bit in the right direction, that would be nice, because I know, every little bit of this stuff matters, right? So.
Well, it matters a great deal. I honestly think you're being a little bit subtle about it, because truthfully, like all that water coming off of a flat roof and where it's going and where it's standing, and I mean, yeah, to have a drinking water safe product on a flat roof coating is maybe just because that's the work I've been doing. I've been on these roofs so much. Like, you're talking about massive quantities of water that's standing for a short period of time, absorbing whatever's in the chemical makeup of the membrane, the coating, whatever it might be that's up there. And I mean, I don't have the scientific data, but it's certainly moving a lot slower into the drain on a flat roof than it is coming off of a steep slope roof and going somewhere. You know what I mean? Going into the water supply, going into the drains, going into rivers and lakes. So it was one of those moments when I was on your website and I'm thinking, this is really intriguing, solving these long-standing problems is the whole story is very intriguing to me. Like you're saying, it was kind of accidental that it worked out to be a coating product, and it has all these added benefits. It's like this perfect storm type of product.
Yeah,
and I've never even used it, which is what's so fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is that, with business or anything, there's certain things that don't work out, but you'll take the wins, right?
Oh,
right.
100%.
Some things you're just fighting to make it right, and trying to improve systems and stuff like that. But every once in a while, you get a W and a coincidence. You'll take the coincidence, because I think it all evens out that way, right?
Right.
You struggle in other areas, you get the occasional, win.
Right.
But you put in the work elsewhere, so I'll take it.
Yeah, I think that's an absolutely great thing to do. So maybe talk a little bit about product awareness, North America, even if it's expanded from there. If there's a flat roofing contractor, let's say, that's listening to this, that's never even heard of it.
Yeah, I mean, North America is our focus. We've had international interest as well, but I think just to really get good at servicing the market and trying to be better at it, right?
Yeah.
I think there's many companies that spend decades learning how to do this better and better, and I think that's what we're trying to do. Is part of the things I do with you have this live stream or podcast that you're learning from others. I'm trying to do the same thing. I'm constantly trying to learn from others, from their different experiences, and try to figure out how I can incorporate that to something I'm directly doing or indirectly doing. Because at the end of the day, it's just a continual process, right? Because things in the industry and technologies all progress, right?
Right.
And I think it's just the fun part is finding ways to upgrade yourself or upgrading anything that you're doing going forward.
Yeah. So in that vein, how are you finding success getting in front of the flat roofing contractor?
Yeah, I mean, I think, the key is when we go out there, we share a story and we try to find like-minded people, right? Not everyone is, like you said, is going to be a fit, but if people that care about sustainability, that are open to change, that are more progressive, right? You can start to spot people. I mean, people asked me when I was launching many products, because I think one of the things that they talk about is there's different curves in technology adoption, right? There's the early adopters, there's the mainstream, the late, and stuff like that. And I would get asked all the time, like, well, how do you target the early adopters? Well, my sort of common answer to that is be an early adopter yourself.
Right.
If you're an early adopter, you will attract other early adopters.
Right.
So for me, like whether it's live streaming or podcasting or, AI technologies. I don't use everything, but I
Yeah,
try to learn about it. In the
definitely.
process of learning about new technologies in the roofing industry, outside the roofing industry, I run into other people either within the industry or outside the industry that are like-minded.
Exactly.
And then when you start to have conversations with people like yourself, because I can tell that you're on the, you love new things, you love learning about new things,
Yeah.
right? Things like this episode happens, and other things will come in the
Oh,
future where
certainly. Yeah.
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 So I think that's been our thing, is that we just found the people that are, early adopters. Maybe they use social media more, or maybe they're part of different groups that are exploring newer technologies. And that's
Right.
where you find the people that are saying, hey, I'm willing to give this a test, and then I'll make up my mind, instead of saying, we've always done it this way and this has always
Right.
worked. It's easier to find those people in those groups. And we naturally, just purely my interest and other interests in the company, other companies filled with people that love to explore and push the boundaries on that. We just try to attract the people that are like-minded.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes perfect sense. That's how it's worked in my experience so far. I'm just a geek for the right tool for the right project, and then the efficiency that you scale with it. Even as something as simple as like attempting to pull a nail with the wrong tool, you're actually like destroying productivity as you do it incorrectly, and then the right tool is handed to you, and you're just like, oh, right. So again, back to the flat roof thing, I mean, I can only imagine, or putting on a steel roof with the wrong tools, just all these efficiencies that are made, right? So it gets me thinking about being in touch with the contractors. So as far as your Salesforce, do you have a boots on the ground Salesforce?
Yeah, we have a sales team that we're developing and growing, and
Right.
just trying to get more efficient and better at doing all that stuff.
Right. And is your sales team's directive to go right to the contractor?
Yeah, so we partner with distribution,
Sure.
progressive distribution, because
Okay.
I mean, I think with some distributors just house products, but then there's other ones that they like to take things that they see that are promising or working and get them out, right? So it's just to look at who's progressive, who's like-minded,
Yeah.
and stuff, and other things as well, right? Like we have other collaborators, people that host webinars on trainings and stuff like
Yes.
that. Like for me, I just know, like, we're in a space where what is already there is huge, right? There's very, very large companies doing large things. And I
Yes.
think the key for any new innovation to get off the ground is collaboration,
Yes.
right? How
Yes.
can we collaborate? We're collaborating right now. Like, how can I collaborate with other people? Just constantly trying to figure out win-wins.
Right.
And I think that's been the key for us, right? We're just trying to figure out who's like-minded, get super creative on how you can collaborate in different ways where they get what they're looking for, and we can benefit as well. And we've had a great time finding opportunities like that.
It sounds like it. I mean, it sounds like you would describe, for example, the football stadium to be a win-win, right?
Yeah.
And did that project already took place?
Yeah, it
Okay.
did, and we got it featured in a publication,
Okay.
and then like all these things, right? And then I mean, with the Roofer Reflections live stream,
Right.
you get to learn a lot about the industry, build relationships, but also give back. So many different things. I mean,
Yeah.
the key for us is we want to show people that our adhesion's better, but there's just it's so hard because there's so much. I don't know. There's so many things that people have going on today, right? There's
Right.
phones are screaming at them. The computers everyone is rushed, right? So the thing is, you can't expect them to sit down and read your website. So you have to somehow add proactive value to their day, really stand out as something that, is worthy of investing their time. Everyone's time is so important, right? So, we try to find ways to be ourselves in a way that aligns with our company, and to show that we're worth that 2 minutes to look and say, hey, look, we actually are different. And maybe it's not it may or may not be a perfect fit for you, but it could be. And we're just trying to spark that curiosity of just, hey, give us a chance to prove that that we're different. Right? We may not be perfect, but we're different, and that we can solve some problems.
Right. It's just such a unique, refreshing approach. For me, just coined the term progressive distribution, as someone who's spent a lot of time on the manufacturer side working with distribution. There's a lot of different types of distribution out there. You're absolutely correct. And yeah, because I'm a dork, I would love to just be a fly on the wall in your initial discussions with flat roof distributors. I just think that would be so entertaining, so intriguing. You know what I mean? To hear the questions that are being asked, and whether it be price and how do you compare to XYZ's product and things like that. But
I asked a bunch of people about this as well, right? Because it's always about how do you get things going, right? Because when you go from stop to walking or starting in some way, and I think some of the answers you have is you have to figure out like the linkages of the chain, right? So there's multiple, right? So who drives the decision within the space? Mm-hmm. And depending on who you talk to, there's about 7 different, there's anywhere from associations to specifiers to generals to subs to there's specifiers and all these things. And you just have to figure out, in different markets, different people move the needle, right? So you have to start to really understand the nuances of that. And then also, just in broad strokes, you have to understand your customer's customer very, very well.
Yes.
So the distributor's customer is the contractor, but we're also dealing with the contractor, so we have to understand the contractor's customer, right? And if we understand the contractor's customer, we can put ourselves in their shoes a bit better, or form proactive relationships, and you can pull those conversations through easier, right?
Yes.
Where and find where people benefit. I learned this lesson the hard way. Like one of the launches I did was for a mountain bike component brand. It was a newer one.
Oh, really?
And locally, I'm in Vancouver, BC. On the North Shore is known worldwide for their mountain biking trails, right?
Sure.
So all of these mountain biking brands are local. And, this guy is really smart, invented this component. And this is when disc brakes on bikes were not very common.
Yeah.
It was on the ultra high end, maybe, but it was still mostly V brakes and stuff like that. But it was just starting to come over. So there was a ton of these individuals that had, $2,000 or $3,000 or maybe $4,000 bikes that needed, that was kind of like wanting to go to the disc brakes, but it was really expensive, right? Because he had to buy a new bike.
Yeah.
And he invented a conversion system that just sort of mounted onto the bike that would take this expensive bike and be able to convert it for about $300.
Okay.
And be able to accept a disc setup, right? And it was very well designed because he was an aerospace engineer, and he brought us on board to market it, and we got the word out, got almost every publication in the world to feature it for free, and it was like I think they even got product of the year and all that stuff, and initial orders are flying out the door, but there was almost no reorders. And you know what the reason was?
No.
Well, it's fine. There's hype around it. Each of these locations will get like 1 or 2 of these things, or they wouldn't buy a lot of them. And then someone would walk into the store because they saw this, product feature in a publication, and they would try to get the part. And the owner of the bike store will go, those are cool, But why don't you get yourself a new bike, right? You
Right.
deserve it. You're a hard worker,
Buy a
and
bike.
we can do it, but it's just not going to be as good.
So, wow, he's like, you should buy a new bike with disc brakes,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. That's so interesting.
You
So
have to
what's the
look at
rest?
the linkage of the chain to see if
Right.
everyone is winning. And if everyone is not winning, you have to somehow mitigate it or realize that it might have a challenge in getting
Yes.
out, because there's many pieces of the puzzle that you have to solve. So you have to look at what it's doing for the owner, what it's doing for the contractor, what
Yes.
it's doing for the distributor. And if you have enough alignment, you can pull it together with some marketing and sales. But if it disrupts someone's business model in some way, then it's going to be expensive, right? It's going to be expensive to
Yeah,
try to get out
absolutely.
there. Yeah.
That's such a good example, though. I mean, I never would have thought that was the conclusion of that story. I'm thinking, okay, I'm a mountain bike geek. Disc brakes are just becoming a thing. It's way too expensive. Don't want to upgrade my bike. I go into the bike shop, and now thinking of the last time I was in a bike shop, I'd say the same thing. Those are cool. That's right on. But check out these new bikes. Makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So, nothing bad on anyone. It's just, every business functions differently. And there's,
Yeah.
to sell a bike is a lot more profitable and selling an inexpensive part.
Right. So exactly gets me thinking back to, we go all the way to the end of the tale, and we have, let's say, the owner of the commercial building, right? Who's now thinking about, like we were talking about before, in my experience, this is the commercial building owner talking. I know my property manager is dealing with leaks on this flat roof. Can somebody just come up with something that will solve this problem, And now you're talking about your product line that has all these features that actually all the way through the chain, it's winning for everybody.
Yeah, I
Right.
mean, it's not perfect, but it's
Right.
good enough, right? Because different products have different competitive features to be able to say, if nothing has solved it, totally, we're in contention, right? If they're looking for a little bit of a longer term premium thing, great. We're good. If they're looking for the cheapest thing because I'm getting rid of this property next year, maybe not, right? That might not be good for us, but at least it's close enough in the flow chart that it becomes part of the conversation, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think for us, it has enough alignment. It's good enough. We're continuing improving all the things that we're doing. That that's why it's been gaining commercial acceptance, and it's growing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And to that, on your website is, let's say I'm a flat roof contractor in the US. Can I find a point of distribution on your website? What's the best way for me to go about that?
Yeah, I mean, if you go to a website, I mean, you can email us. We have contractors listed as well,
Oh, okay.
but we can direct you in the right way.
Okay, cool. Well, I want to be respectful of your time. We're coming up on 50 minutes here. Anything else you'd like to add, or about the product, about your own story?
I like what you're doing. I mean, obviously, shows like yourself are necessary, right? Because, as the construction and the roofing or the other industries, that compared to some other industries like the technology industry, doesn't have quite the knowledge
Right.
share that
Exactly.
that exists in other places. And what you're doing is fantastic, because I think for us, the more information we can put out there, just the better, right? People discover it, and then all those practices, or at least some of the practices that we want to see out there that are better for the industry, will start to become more adopted.
Yeah, I completely agree. The advantage that the tech industry has on the building products industry is the end customers in the building products aren't in front of their laptops all day. They're on their knees with tools in their hands, so then they have to set aside time, myself included, to do this. But you're absolutely right. The whole knowledge share component is just massive. I'm so geeked to, like I was saying before, put 5 hours of conversations on YouTube and just see what happens, see little things happen on LinkedIn, like somebody wanting to talk to somebody else. I mean, it's just incredible. I'm in the next couple of weeks, I'm talking to another friend of mine who actually makes samples for the building products world. You know, roofing samples, gutter samples, flat roof samples. You go to the trade show, all this stuff on the table. So all these little connections. That's just kind of the way I like to do things. So
and each piece of content you put on makes the prior pieces of content more valuable.
Yeah.
So every single, sort of, I guess, building block just makes everything better. The beginning, maybe you don't have a lot, but then each piece after that just makes everything you've already done, you've already put in the work, become totally valuable. So it's a great investment in time.
Well, I really appreciate you saying that. Been an absolute pleasure, Tats, to talk to you again. Hopefully we'll talk again in the future. I'm sure that we will. And thank you for being on the show. There'll be a lot of links down below for flat roofing contractors and everybody else that wants to know about the product. So, Tat, thanks again, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you, Ian.
Yes, thank you very much. We'll talk to you soon, okay?